Hi, this is Namunara, and I'm going to be showing you how to create whoosh/transition sound effects. Before we move any further, let's just listen to the example that I'll be showing you today. Alright, so you heard two transition effects, so we'll be going over how I made those within Serum. First of all, this is a game called Maruta Escape. It's going to be available on Android and iPhone very soon. I worked on this game. It's like a sci-fi stealth game, so you can hack robots, hack computers, and bend time. It's really cool. So I'll let you guys know when that's available. So before we move any further, what I think of when I think of whoosh sounds is, first of all, I want to create my own transition sounds, especially with film and games. The visual is what guides the sound. So you want to make sure the transition, how it speeds up, how it slows down, all that type of stuff, you want to have it match. Transition sounds are not the best to use with sound libraries and sample banks because they just don't fit most of the time. I'm not saying you shouldn't use sound libraries, or I'm not saying you should create your own sounds every single time for all types of stuff. No, I don't have a problem with that at all, but I think in this particular case of like whooshes and transitions, I think it's a very good opportunity for sound designers to create their own unique transitions, and everyone's better off for it. It's going to be tailored to the visual, and it's going to be a unique thing. So first of all, we're going to talk about the very basic type of whoosh, which is generally like noise with either pitch envelope modulation or filter envelope. So we have Serum here. We're going to turn on the noise section, which is basically a sampler. Okay. And then what I like to do is use the LFO as envelopes. So here we go. We can drag the LFO into the pitch section. Looks like that. If I press, a note, that's what it's going to do. I'm just going to slow it down first. Okay, you can see it moving here, and it goes back into the middle. I don't want to do that. I want to press Shift, Option, click. There we go. So now it'll start at the bottom, go up and down. Okay, like that. So if you narrow the range, you have something like that. All right, so when you have that and like some reverb, that sounds pretty cool. So you can do that, or you can do the filter modulation. Same thing here. And with this, I want to apply it to the noise. With this, you can even set the LFO or envelope to the resonance and kind of do the opposite. So it starts off like when then it goes shh, and then back to right. Here we go. Turn the level up, make it a bit slower. Whoops. Right, with some delay. Very acceptable. You can do that and it'll sound good, and you can move on. All right, so that's kind of like a basic whoosh sound and how to create it. So now we're going to go back to the examples that I have today. Once again, I'll play it for you without the music this time. Yeah, those are the sounds. And we're going to start with the first one. All right, so when I think of whoosh sounds and transition sounds, I think of three layers. Think of the first layer as something that's kind of like fundamental, provides gravitas, the base of the sound. It's mono usually. It's the meat. I'm reading here. And then the second part of the sound is more like the crunchy. It kind of lives in the space. It's spectral, so it's wider. It's got texture, maybe, and this is a great example because it's a sci-fi game, so you can really like make that come to life with this second layer. And then the third layer, which is something that creates like a more organic feel where it sounds like it's in real life. What we're gonna look at here is the first layer. I'm gonna be thinking of as oscillator A, second layer oscillator B, and third layer as the noise. So oscillator A. I chose basic Moog, and you can scroll through the wavetable here. But I've just assigned the first LFO to kind of scroll a little bit up and down. And this is what it sounds like by itself. Kind of like a motorbike. And it has two humps in this envelope because it first goes over the logo and then, okay, I'm talking about the visual here, goes over the logo and then the background and into the level selector. So there's two whooshes. Okay, this is why you can't use sample libraries and stuff like that, because the visual artists will do stuff like this and they sometimes don't even know they're doing it. But not saying that's a bad thing or anything, but you know, I think it makes a difference when the sound designer kind of like looks for these particulars and really goes for it. That's the first layer. What I'm doing is assigning the LFO to the wavetable position as well as a coarse pitch. All right, so there's coarse pitch modulation going on here, and you can see that moving. I also took it down a couple octaves. Something I skipped over is with sound design, you want to create a note so you don't have to press the keyboard every time. I chose C2 because I wanted kind of a lower register to base the sound off of, and also the song is in the key of C. With stuff like pitch modulation and stuff, it doesn't really matter, but you know, just for organizational sake and just to keep everything kind of very clear, I chose C. And then you can do whatever, you know, inside the plugin to shape it. All right, so now we're going to look at oscillator B, the second layer. Okay, it's the pitch is shifted down quite a bit, and then it's up a bit, you know, just to find the right pitch. So here we go. I'll just play it. Oh, this title flicker sound is going off, so I'm just gonna mute that. The title flicker, by the way, is this sound. You know, back to the program. So here I am modulating the wavetable position of this Monster 7 wavetable. There it is. There's different monsters you can find. You can even audition them. I chose 7 because I liked it. This one, I want to make it wider to give it a sense of space. So I bumped up the unison to 4. So there's 4 instances of this happening, detuned in the stereo field, and then blended in. Okay. An easy way to spread things out. So I also modulated this sync knob. Now it says sync, but you can make it do all types of different things. Just for beginners out there, I'll show you real quick what I mean by that and why someone might modulate that knob. So if I'm in oscillator A here. By the way, if you want to find like the sine wave, square wave, stuff like that, it's in basic shapes. Okay, I'll play a note. Just do that. Okay, cool. So with this knob, you can assign it to different things, like bending. And when you modulate something like this, it just kind of creates like it's just more dynamic. It's more interesting than just like a pure sine wave. So, it creates some movement. And this is actually more than just creating a movement. It feels more natural because, life, nature, it's always changing. It's always kind of oscillating and vibrating, particles, man. So with that particular sound that I showed you before, that was the sync. So what that does is this. And in the extreme sense, kind of adds the harmonics. It gets higher. So yeah, that's what I did, pretty subtly. Okay, back to the sound. Okay, something I skipped over is I also put a filter on that first oscillator. So let me just play that for you. Make sure everything's all good here. Right, so before it was just this. And with the filter, it just kind of focuses the sound on the bassier part of the sound. So then the second layer can stand out more, as well as the third layer. And I used LFO1 to modulate the cutoff, and I used LFO3 to modulate the resonance. See, it goes. You want to do that type of thing if you want to be all dramatic and cinematic. All right. So there's that. I also modulated the level of the second layer, the oscillator B, with this kind of tremolo effect, just to give it some movement. It's all about giving sounds movement, because everything in life is constantly in movement, okay? That's how you make stuff that sounds real. Okay, the third layer is made with noise, and this is probably my favorite thing about Serum. It has a built-in sampler, essentially. I'm just gonna solo that noise, and it is modulated by the LFO1 with the pitch and the level. Okay, I really like this because it has like a scrolling sound, and it goes to the level selector. It just kind of falls into it like a I don't know, pebble falling or something like that. It's just kind of like guiding you in. You can try different sounds here. See, that works well. And with the pitch, it's really cool because it's kind of like a tape machine. So as the pitch drops, the timing gets slower. Okay, not that one. It's very applicable to just making sounds sound more realistic, even though it's super it's made in a plugin inside of software. But so there you go. That's the first sound. And then I applied some effects like this dimension just to give it more space. This is what it sounds like without, and then with. Just makes it kind of wider, kind of breathes. And then you have the phaser. Now the phaser in Serum FX is ridiculously powerful. See, now it sounds like, I don't even know, just bubbly and weird. You can really push it to the extremes. But yeah, so it's kind of like the fun plugin. With video games and movies, you can really have fun, especially video games. Video games are designed to be fun, even the serious ones. So you can kind of get away with stuff like this, and it really engages the listener, okay, or the player, whatever you want to call it. So there you go. Now you do something that is it just enhances any sound, which is add reverb. And there you go. And then I print that by using the resampling function on Ableton. So I do that. And then what that does is it records whatever's coming out of the master channel. So as long as this channel is the only thing that's being recorded, it's going to record that. So, okay, you can title it transition 1 and then press record. The cool thing about this is you can bump the reverb. And they recorded the reverb, okay? Which is in a auxiliary channel. And then that's basically this over here. And I did some post-processing to it, and I'll go over that after I go over the second transition sound. Okay, so I'll play the second transition sound right now. Yeah, so first, when I was making these sounds, I try to use the same kind of Serum patch and try to make it work, try to reverse it, all types of stuff, but the truth is the sound is the visual is just way different than the first one. So I started from scratch and actually failed a couple times, but that's the thing with these types of sound design is sometimes you make 10 iterations and you're like, oh, I like this one the best. And you go with that. No problem there. So that's the visual. So I wanted to match that. Okay, same thing, you draw in the note. And Ableton's really cool because, I mean, maybe you can do this in every DAW, probably. But if you drag, you can kind of see the visual. So you can kind of dial that in really, really exact. All right, on to the second sound. So once again, we're looking at 3 different parts in the sound. Okay. We're looking at the oscillator A, oscillator B, the noise, the basis of the sound, the character of the sound, and the organic sampler. So here's oscillator A. So very basic. It's just a sine wave being bent by this LFO. And the coarse pitching is also happening. Once again, look at the coarse pitching and the bend. Okay. Just following the visual. Octave low, semitones lower, and that's just the sound. Okay, pretty basic stuff. I didn't need to do a filter on this because it's based off of a sine wave, so there's not too many harmonics up top. You know, this is pretty interesting. So it's made from a sine wave, just like the other sound. The unison is bumped up, so it's wide, and the coarse pitching's happening. Now, the difference here is the quantize knob and the level. So I'll show you guys what that sounds like. So here we go. It's a basic sine wave. So I'm going to choose quantize. And what quantize does is basically it's a sample rate reducer. You can see the visual of that happening. The thing with sample rate reduction is it increases the squelchy and the piercing sound when you drive it upward. So what you want to do is you want to turn down the level as the quantize or the sample rate reduction reduces more. Assign this to these two and kind of reverse them. Okay, you get the idea. So that's what I did for the second transition sound. Okay, so it's A and B, and then now we go on to noise, which is the organic part. So I went with Elysium on this one. So you can see the pitch going down and up, and it's kind of like the elasticity part. When you look at the visual, it's got this very natural, like an elastic band type of effect. All right, now we're going to look at the effects section. Here we go. Okay, again, it's a powerful phaser. I'm just going to show you what it's doing. So as the mix goes up, the sync rate is going down. So it has this like fast and then fast again. So that it's just adding to that elastic effect. And yeah, if you push it, it's gonna go pretty extreme. So about there is fine. Cool. Oh, by the way, let me just talk about for a really short time like the importance of this LFO envelope. I should just say envelope, but it's in the LFO section. You just turn on the envelope right there. All right. So if you don't dial in this thing well, or if you just kind of dial it in whichever way and expect it to work, let's see. See, like that just goes to show like how important this part is. And you do a lot of experimentation with bending it this way, that way, and stuff like that. And it's really worth taking the time to do this part right, because everything here is linked to this. Okay, all these this is just a representation of these knobs. All these settings are tied into it, so it's extremely important you dial it in right. See? Yeah, that's better. All right, so you add some reverb again, and sounds cool. Awesome. So now on to post-processing. So this part's pretty basic, but effective, I would say. The first part is iZotope Trash. This is a multiband overdrive saturation distortion tool. And what I did was pretty subtle, actually, with this one. I'll just solo that. It's adding more top end. It's kind of making things a little bit more crackly, a bit more grit, some sand. And then some EQ. These are the resonance that I took out. And you can think of this kind of as a middle scoop, maybe. I did this a while ago. Maybe if I did it now, it'd be more like, wider, and maybe more shaping. But, in the moment, you do different things, and if it sounds good, it sounds good. So, see those are the frequencies that I took out essentially. Kind of makes it deeper, and then finally a compressor. And the drive is up to full, so as it compresses more, it saturates more. And the compression in general is just to like even out the sound overall. I just wanted a controlled sound. That's really all there is to it. So without, kind of dull with, and it just sounds more polished. I guess that's the best way to explain it. I'm just gonna play the first one without, and then with. Yeah, so there's more top end that really like excites the top end of your ears, and there's somewhat of a mid scoop, and then you kind of round out and even out the sound with the compressor, so it sounds more even, more consistent. So yeah, that's basically it. That is how to create a whoosh/transition sound effect in Serum. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you liked it, thumbs up, comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to make more videos like this. This was a good one just because I didn't find any real good tutorials on this subject. But if you have any suggestions, if you want to know how I make certain things, maybe you heard my music, maybe you play this game, just, shoot me a message or a comment. All right, thanks a lot, guys. Peace.